The rain-soaked streets of New York City gleamed under the streetlights, but for Ellie Harper, they were a cold, unyielding reminder of her reality. At 18, she'd been shoved out the door of her family's Brooklyn brownstone, her mother's screams of "You're no daughter of mine" echoing in her ears. The crime? Loving a girl named Mia, whose laughter once lit up Ellie's world like a summer dawn. 10 years later, Ellie was 28, her once bright green eyes dulled by nights spent in shelters and alleys. Her chestnut hair, cropped short, clung to her face as she huddled beneath a tattered awning in Manhattan, clutching a dog-eared photo of Mia. That photo was her anchor, a relic of the love that had cost her everything. She'd lost her family, her home, her future, all for a truth she refused to bury. But the streets had a way of grinding down even the fiercest spirits, and Ellie was tired. So tired. Yet, across the city, Mia Alvarez was a different story. At 29, she was the darling of Wall Street, her face plastered on Forbes' latest cover. Youngest CFO in tech, Mia Alvarez redefined success. Her long black hair framed a face that radiated confidence, her warm brown eyes masking a secret that gnawed at her soul. The world saw a titan. Ellie saw the girl who'd whispered promises under the stars. Promises broken when Mia walked away, choosing safety over love. Ellie's fingers traced the photo, her breath catching. She didn't know Mia was in New York. She didn't know Mia's polished life was built on a lie so fragile, it could shatter with a single truth. But fate, cruel and cunning, was about to pull them back together. It was a late October evening when Ellie stumbled into a crowded soup kitchen in Chelsea. The air smelled of stale coffee and desperation, but it was warm, a rare mercy. She kept her head down, her leather jacket worn thin from years of use barely shielding her from the chill. As she shuffled through the line, a voice stopped her cold. "Ellie? Ellie Harper." Her heart lurched. She turned and there was Mia standing in the doorway, a volunteer apron tied over her tailored blazer. Time hadn't dulled her beauty. If anything, it had sharpened it, her elegance a stark contrast to Ellie's ragged edges. For a moment the world fell away, and it was just them two girls in a high school hallway, stealing glances, hearts racing. "Mia," Ellie whispered, her voice raw. She wanted to run, to hide the shame of her worn shoes and unwashed hair, but her feet wouldn't move. Mia's smile faltered, her eyes flickering with something, guilt, maybe, or longing. "I didn't know you were here." Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a decade's worth of unspoken words. Ellie's throat tightened. "Yeah, well, life's funny like that." She forced a laugh, but it came out bitter. She wanted to ask why Mia left, why she hadn't fought for them, but the words stuck like thorns. Mia stepped closer, her polished heels clicking on the linoleum. "Can we talk? Please?" Ellie wanted to say no, to protect the fragile pieces of herself she'd managed to hold together. But those brown eyes, the ones she'd dreamed of for 10 years, undid her. "Fine," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But not here." They ended up in a small diner nearby, the kind with sticky tables and flickering neon signs. Mia paid for Ellie's coffee, her hands trembling as she slid the mug across the table. The silence between them was heavy, filled with the ghosts of their past. "I saw you on Forbes," Ellie said finally, her tone clipped. "Guess you made it big." Mia's gaze dropped to her hands. "It's not what it looks like. Isn't it? You're a star, Mia. Always knew you'd be." Ellie's voice cracked, betraying the hurt she'd buried. "You didn't need me dragging you down." "That's not true," Mia said quickly, her eyes snapping up. "You were never a burden, Ellie." I was scared. My family, the pressure, I thought I had to choose." "And you chose wrong," Ellie shot back, her anger flaring. "You left me. You knew what my mom would do, and you still walked away." Mia flinched, her composure cracking. "I know. I've regretted it every day." The words hung there, raw and unguarded. Ellie wanted to believe them, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not anymore. Still, there was something in Mia's eyes, a flicker of the girl who'd once promised forever, that made Ellie pause. "Why are you here, Mia? Volunteering at a soup kitchen? Trying to ease your conscience?" Mia's lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she reached across the table, her fingers brushing Ellie's. The touch was electric, a jolt that sent Ellie's heart racing. For a moment they were 18 again, stealing kisses in the park, dreaming of a future they'd never have. I'm here because I'm trying to fix things, Mia said softly. Not just for you but for me. I've been running from who I am for 10 years, Ellie. And I'm tired of it. Ellie pulled her hand back, her chest tight. You don't get to do this. You don't get to waltz back into my life and act like you can fix me. I'm not your charity case. That's not what I meant, Mia said, her voice breaking. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm trying to fix us. The word us hit Ellie like a punch. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. There is no us, Mia. Not anymore. She stormed out, the cold air biting her skin as she walked back into the night. But as she disappeared into the city's shadows, she couldn't shake the feeling that Mia wasn't done with her yet. And deep down in a place she wouldn't admit existed, Ellie wasn't done with Mia either. The city never slept, but Ellie found its pulse deafening as she wandered the streets after leaving Mia in the diner. Her heart was a battlefield, torn between the ache of old love and the sting of betrayal. She tucked the photo of Mia deeper into her pocket, as if hiding it could bury the feelings it stirred. The next morning, Ellie woke on a bench in Central Park, her breath visible in the crisp autumn air. She'd spent the night replaying Mia's words. I'm trying to fix us. What did that even mean? Mia had a penthouse, a corner office, a life that glittered. Ellie had a backpack and a stubborn will to survive. They were worlds apart, and yet Mia's touch had felt like coming home. As Ellie scavenged for breakfast at a nearby deli's dumpster, a newsstand caught her eye. There was Mia's face again, staring out from Forbes, her smile polished but hollow. Ellie's stomach twisted. She'd always known Mia was destined for greatness, but seeing it splashed across a magazine felt like a betrayal all over again. She grabbed a discarded copy, the pages crinkling under her fingers, and read the headline. Mia Alvarez, the woman who built an empire from nothing. Nothing. The word burned. Mia hadn't started with nothing. She'd had a family that accepted her, a scholarship to NYU, a safety net Ellie could only dream of. Ellie had been the one with nothing, kicked out at 18 with a duffel bag and a broken heart. She tossed the magazine into a trash can, but the image of Mia lingered. Meanwhile, Mia sat in her glass-walled office, staring at the city below. The view was breathtaking, but it felt like a cage. She built her empire on ambition and denial, burying her truth to climb the corporate ladder. Her colleagues saw a fearless leader. Her mirror showed a coward. Last night, seeing Ellie ragged, defiant, beautiful had cracked something inside her. She couldn't keep running. Mia's assistant knocked, holding a stack of papers. Ms. Alvarez, your interview with CNN is tomorrow. They want to dive into your backstory. Small town girl makes it big. Any talking points? Mia forced a smile. The usual. Hard work, sacrifice, you know. But her mind was elsewhere on Ellie's sharp words. You chose wrong. She had. And the lie she'd built her life on was starting to unravel. That afternoon, Mia returned to the soup kitchen, hoping Ellie would show. She didn't. Instead, Mia overheard a conversation between two volunteers about a woman matching Ellie's description getting into a fight at a nearby shelter. She's tough, one said, but she's gonna get herself hurt. Panic gripped Mia. She grabbed her coat and headed to the shelter, her heels out of place among the cracked sidewalks and graffiti. Inside, the air was thick with tension. She scanned the room, her heart sinking when she saw Ellie in a corner, a fresh bruise blooming on her cheek. Ellie! Mia rushed over, ignoring the curious stares. What happened? Ellie shrugged, wincing as she touched her cheek. Some guy thought he could take my bag. I showed him otherwise. You're hurt, Mia said, her voice trembling. She reached out, but Ellie flinched away. I'm fine, Ellie snapped. I've been handling myself for 10 years. Don't need you playing hero now. Mia's eyes stung. I'm not trying to be a hero. I can't stand seeing you like this. Then don't look, Ellie said, but her voice wavered. She stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. I don't need your pity, Mia. It's not pity, Mia said, stepping closer. It's regret. I should have fought for you back then. I was weak, and I've hated myself for it ever since. Ellie's gaze softened for a moment, but she shook her head. Words don't fix a decade, Mia. You don't know what I've been through. Then tell me, Mia pleaded. Let me in. Ellie hesitated, her walls cracking. She wanted to tell Mia about the shelters, the hunger, the The night she cried herself to sleep clutching that photo. But trust was a fragile thing, and hers had been shattered too many times. Instead, she turned away. I gotta go. Mia watched her leave, her heart breaking. But she wasn't giving up. She pulled out her phone and called a contact she hadn't spoken to in years, a social worker, who specialized in helping the homeless. If Ellie wouldn't let her in, Mia would find another way to help. She owed her that much. Back on the streets, Ellie's mind was a storm. Mia's words echoed, stirring memories of stolen kisses and whispered dreams. She wanted to hate her, to keep her anger as a shield, but love was a stubborn thing. It clung to her even now. As night fell, Ellie found herself at the edge of the Hudson River, the city's lights reflecting on the water. She pulled out Mia's photo, her thumb brushing over the familiar smile. For the first time in years, she let herself hope just a flicker that maybe, just maybe, there was a way back to the girl she'd loved. Ellie's boots crunched through fallen leaves as she walked the city's edges, her mind a tug-of-war between hope and distrust. Mia's words in the shelter had cracked her defenses, but the scars of abandonment ran deep. She couldn't afford to let herself believe in second chances, not when survival demanded every ounce of her strength. Across town, Mia was unraveling. Her CNN interview loomed, and the pressure to maintain her perfect image was suffocating. She'd spent years crafting a narrative, the small-town girl who clawed her way to the top through grit and brilliance. But it was a lie, built on the silence of who she really was, a lesbian who'd buried her heart to fit into a world that rewarded conformity. Seeing Ellie had brought it all crashing back. Mia canceled her afternoon meetings and headed to the social worker's office. Sarah, a no-nonsense woman with graying hair, listened as Mia poured out her story, her love for Ellie, her cowardice, her regret. I need to help her, Mia said, her voice breaking. But she won't let me. Sarah leaned back, her eyes kind but firm. Ellie's been on the streets a long time. Trust is hard-won out there. You can't force it, but you can show up. Consistently. Mia nodded, determination settling in. She'd show up for Ellie, for herself, for the truth she'd hidden too long. Meanwhile, Ellie found herself back at the soup kitchen, drawn by the promise of warmth and a meal. She didn't expect to see Mia again, but there she was, serving mashed potatoes with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ellie's heart twisted. She wanted to stay angry, but Mia's presence was a reminder of what could have been. You're persistent, Ellie said, taking a tray. Her tone was gruff, but her eyes lingered on Mia's. I'm learning, Mia replied, her voice soft. Can I sit with you? Ellie hesitated, then nodded. They sat at a corner table, the hum of the room fading into the background. For a moment it was just them, the air thick with unspoken words. Why now? Ellie asked, her voice low. Why come back after all this time? Mia's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. Because I'm tired of lying. To the world, to myself. I thought success would fill the hole you left, but it didn't. It never could. Ellie's chest ached. She wanted to believe Mia, but the years had taught her caution. You don't know what it's like out here, Mia. You don't know what I've lost. Then tell me, Mia said again, her eyes pleading. I want to understand. Ellie looked away, her jaw tight. The memories flooded back, nights spent shivering in alleys, the hunger that gnawed at her bones, the strangers who'd taken advantage of her desperation. She'd fought to keep her dignity, but the streets had a way of stripping it away. I lost everything, Ellie said finally, her voice barely audible. My family, my dreams, my hope. All because I loved you. Mia's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I was a coward. I thought I was protecting you by leaving, but I was only protecting myself. The confession hung between them, raw and heavy. Ellie wanted to lash out, to make Mia feel the weight of her pain, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the sincerity in Mia's eyes, or maybe it was the part of her that still loved her, despite everything. Before she could respond, a commotion broke out across the room. A man was shouting, his voice slurred with anger. Ellie tensed, her instincts kicking in. She'd seen too many fights in places like this. But Mia was already on her feet, moving toward the chaos with a calm authority that surprised Ellie. Sir, let's talk outside, Mia said, her voice steady. The man glared but followed her, and within minutes, the situation was defused. Ellie watched, a mix of admiration and resentment stirring in her chest. Mia had always been good at taking charge even when they were kids. When Mia returned, Ellie raised an eyebrow. Still playing the savior? Mia shook her head, sitting down. Just trying to help. Like I want to help you. Ellie's walls went up again. I don't need your help. I've survived this long without you. I know, Mia said softly. But you shouldn't have to. The words hit harder than Ellie expected. She stood, her tray untouched, and walked out into the night. But this time Mia followed, her steps quick and determined. Ellie, wait. Mia called, catching up to her on the sidewalk. I'm not giving up on you. Not again. Ellie turned, her eyes blazing. Why should I trust you? You broke me, Mia. You don't get to just walk back in and expect forgiveness. I don't expect it, Mia said, her voice breaking. I just want a chance to make things right, even if it takes the rest of my life. For the first time, Ellie saw the cracks in Mia's perfect facade, the fear, the guilt, the love she'd tried to bury. It wasn't enough to erase the past, but it was enough to make Ellie pause. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. The city's pulse thrummed through Ellie as she walked away from Mia, her heart a tangled mess of longing and fear. Mia's words echoed in her mind. I'm not giving up on you. They were a lifeline, but one Ellie wasn't sure she could grab. Trust was a risk, and the streets had taught her to avoid risks at all costs. Mia, meanwhile, was drowning in her own choices. The CNN interview was hours away, and the lie she'd built her life on felt like a noose tightening around her neck. She'd told the world she was straight, a narrative that had opened doors but closed her heart. Ellie's reappearance was a reckoning, forcing Mia to confront the truth she'd buried. Back at her apartment, Mia stared at the Forbes cover on her coffee table. The woman in the photo looked like a stranger, polished, untouchable, empty. She pulled out her phone and texted Sarah, the social worker, asking for advice on helping Ellie without pushing her away. Sarah's response was simple. Be honest. Not just with her, but with yourself. Mia knew what that meant. She couldn't help Ellie while hiding who she was. But coming out now, at the peak of her career, could cost her everything: her job, her reputation, her carefully crafted empire. Still, the thought of losing Ellie again was worse. The next morning, Ellie woke in a shelter, her body aching from the thin mattress. She dreamed of Mia, of the summer they'd spent sneaking into rooftop parties, laughing until dawn. The memory was a knife, sharp and sweet. She didn't know Mia was about to risk everything for her. At the CNN studio, Mia sat under bright lights, her palms sweaty as the host ran through questions. The interview was live, a rare vulnerability for someone who thrived on control. The host leaned in, smiling. Mia, your story is inspiring, a small-town girl turned tech titan. But there's so little about your personal life. What drives you? Mia's heart pounded. She thought of Ellie, of the bruise on her cheek, of the photo she'd seen tucked in Ellie's pocket. This was her moment. She could keep lying or she could choose truth. I've been driven by fear for too long, Mia said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. I've hidden who I am to get here. I'm a lesbian, and I've spent 10 years denying that to protect my career. But I'm done hiding. The studio went silent, the host blinking in surprise. Mia kept going, the words pouring out. I loved someone once and I let her down. She's out there fighting to survive, and I'm here because I was too scared to stand by her. I won't make that mistake again. The confession lit up the internet within minutes. Social media exploded, some praising Mia's courage, others tearing her apart. Her phone buzzed with messages from her team, warning of fallout, but Mia didn't care. For the first time, she felt free. Ellie, oblivious to the broadcast, was at a job fair in Brooklyn, hoping for a chance to claw her way off the streets. She'd spent the morning practicing her pitch, her hands shaking as she handed out resumes. But every employer saw her worn clothes and dismissed her, their smiles polite but empty. Defeated, she stopped at a coffee shop to warm her hands, the TV in the corner playing CNN. Mia's face filled the screen, her words cutting through the noise. I'm a lesbian and I've spent 10 years denying that. Ellie froze, her coffee forgotten. Mia was coming out publicly, irrevocably for her. Tears stung Ellie's eyes. She didn't know if she could forgive Mia, but this was a start. A reckless, beautiful start. She left the coffee shop, her steps quickening as she headed toward the soup kitchen. She didn't know what she'd say when she saw Mia, but she needed to see her. Mia was already there, surrounded by volunteers whispering about her interview. When she saw Ellie, her face lit up, equal parts hope and fear. "You saw it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ellie nodded, her throat tight. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Mia said, stepping closer. "I should have done it years ago. I love you, Ellie." I never stopped. The words hit Ellie like a wave, pulling her under. She wanted to run to protect herself, but Mia's eyes held her in place. "You can't just say that and expect everything to be okay," Ellie said, her voice shaking. "But I don't want to keep running from you either." Mia reached for her hand, and this time Ellie didn't pull away. The touch was a promise, fragile but real. They stood there, two women battered by time and choices, daring to believe in a second chance. The soup kitchen's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, but for Ellie, the world had narrowed to Mia's hand in hers. The confession on CNN had shaken something loose inside her, a knot of pain and hope unraveling. She wasn't ready to forgive, but she was ready to list a small step, but one that felt monumental. Mia's life, meanwhile, was in freefall. Her coming out had sparked a firestorm. Her company's stock dipped. Investors called emergency meetings, and her inbox overflowed with hate mail. But there were also messages of support from employees, strangers, even a few board members. Mia didn't care about the fallout, she cared about Ellie. Over the next week, Mia kept showing up at the soup kitchen, helping Ellie navigate job applications and connecting her with Sarah, who found her a spot in a transitional housing program. Ellie resisted at first, pride warring with desperation, but Mia's persistence wore her down. "I'm not doing this for you to owe me," Mia said one evening, handing Ellie a warm coat. "I'm doing it because I want you to have a chance." Ellie took the coat, her fingers lingering on Mia's. "I'm not used to people caring," she admitted, her voice soft. "Not anymore." "Then let me remind you how it feels," Mia said, her eyes steady. Slowly they rebuilt something fragile but real. They talked late into the night, sharing stories of the years they'd lost. Ellie told Mia about the shelters, the job she'd scraped by on, the moment she'd almost given up. Mia confessed her own struggles, panic attacks, sleepless nights, the loneliness of a life built on lies. They laughed, cried, and began to heal stitch by stitch. But the past wasn't done with them. One evening as they walked through Central Park, a reporter approached, camera in tow. "Ms. Alvarez, is it true you're helping a homeless woman to clean up your image?" The question was sharp, meant to wound. Mia froze, but Ellie stepped forward, her voice steady. "She's not helping me for publicity. She's helping me because she loves me. And I love her." The reporter blinked, caught off guard. Mia's hand found Ellie's, squeezing tight. The camera flashed, capturing a moment that would headline the next day's news. Tech Titan's redemption. A love story. The story spread, and with it, Ellie's life began to change. A local nonprofit, moved by her resilience, offered her a job as a peer counselor, helping others navigate the streets she'd survived. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Mia, meanwhile, faced her board, refusing to back down from who she was. Some left. Others stayed, inspired by her courage. Months later, Ellie stood in her small apartment, a far cry from the penthouses Mia knew, but a palace compared to the streets. Mia was there, helping her hang a photo, the same one Ellie had carried for years, now framed. "We made it," Ellie said, her voice thick with emotion. "Not yet," Mia replied, pulling her close. "But we're getting there." Their love wasn't perfect. It was messy, scarred, built on years of pain and redemption. But it was theirs, and it was enough. Ellie had found a home not just in her apartment, but in Mia's arms. And Mia had found her truth, a life no longer hidden behind lies. As they stood together, the city outside hummed with possibility. They'd lost a decade, but they'd gained something strong, era love that had survived the streets, the lies, and the weight of the world. And in that love they found a future worth fighting for. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.